When most people think about organizing, they think of their storage spaces. And this is because this area of the home is one of the most important spaces in our home. It is what I call the workhorse spaces. These are your garages, your attics, closets, cabinets, junk drawer, right? Our storage spaces are the workhorse that support us in our day-to-day activities. This is where we go and we store things that are backup and bonus to the primary spaces of our homes. It is also where we store things from our past, store things for the future. This is a big area. And energetically, it has a lot going on for us because what we surround ourselves with, we infuse into our lives. Think of your home, and anything that is in your home is almost like tea leaves that is making the tea of your home. Right? And this is the infusing your life with all the magic. And so whatever you surround yourself with is what you are infusing your life with. And we see this in no better area than the storage spaces, which are what we are addressing this month in the Chaos to Calm community. Now, the storage spaces are super important because they are these areas that are so big often, right? Think about your garage, or if you have a storage closet or an attic. This is a space that is so tricky to organize because, yes, there might be some functional items in there. But a lot of times there's not. There's things that we don't need right now, or we won't see for a month or two, or maybe never. Maybe we never look at these things. And so a lot of times these spaces can go really dormant and they become unconscious spaces, spaces that we hardly think about, spaces that are just like not really intentionally put together. We are intentionally aligning our bedrooms or our clothing closet because we are functionally using those every single day. But a space like your garage or your storage closet, you only really crave organization there when you experience disorganization there. Right? When you go to find your extra toilet paper and you get hit with an avalanche of paper towels instead in the garage, that's when you're like, I should have organized this stuff. But so what I will say is, because these spaces are so unconscious and because we don't often think about them, when you are organizing these spaces, these powerhouse spaces, these workhorse spaces, it is more important than ever to set an intention. You hear me talk a lot about the 3 questions that you need to ask yourself before organizing anything. Those questions are, what are the 3 to 5 activities I'm going to do in this space? How do I want the space to look? And how do I want the space to feel? A lot of times we don't set those intentions for these workhorse spaces because we're like, it's just the garage. I don't need my garage to be pretty. My friend, you might actually. You might need your garage to feel good, because if you don't feel good in your garage, you might not want to store things there, and then you start stacking them in your mudroom or on the kitchen counter. So it seems like it's not that important, and yet it becomes a whole issue if it is not a space that feels accessible to you and clear to you. And so all of these spaces kind of block into each other. So the chaos that you might create by unconsciously not setting up your systems in a main space like a garage end up backing up and affecting the other areas of your home, because you're like, the garage is really messy, or, it hasn't been sealed, and so I can't put things in there. I'll just keep putting them in this other very inconvenient location. So do not underestimate the importance of these powerhouse spaces, because they are your support. They are literally offering you support. The way I think about them is like a butler. You go out and you're like, I just want to find that photograph from high school when my high school bestie comes for a visit this weekend. If your garage or your storage spaces are organized, you can find that in probably 5 minutes or less. And if not, you are probably going to avoid it at all costs and just talk about it instead, which is fine. It's totally fine. But when you are organizing these storage spaces, take the time to really set your intention by asking yourself those 3 questions. What are the 3 to 5 things I want to do in this space? How do I want it to look, and how do I want it to feel? Now, what I will say is, it can sound a little small when I say to people, what are the 3 to 5 things you want to do in this space? Because a lot of times we have taken these storage spaces and we have turned them into dumping zones, right? So one of the uses might be things I don't know what to do with, which is normal. When you are organizing your whole home, and this is what we do in the Chaos to Calm community, it's what I do when I work privately with clients. When you are organizing your whole home, what ends up happening is you organize one room and we're kind of chasing down the clutter, right? So we might start with your bedroom or your office or the kitchen, and then we're kind of working our way through. And what I always tell people is, if we've organized a space, that space becomes sacred. No more cluttering there. You can clutter anywhere else in the house that hasn't been organized. Keep that space that you've done sacred, right? We're watching that because what happens is we want to see the health and function of that space and continue to evolve it as it goes. So the rest of the house can be your dumping ground. So what happens is as we're chasing the clutter down, generally speaking, what ends up happening is the last space that we address is the storage space. It's the garage, it's the attic, it's the dumping zone because you've done everything else. And so a lot of times what will happen is some people start off organizing their storage spaces because they need them functional. And then we organize the whole house. And then we come back around and we have to reorganize the storage spaces because they still become the dumping ground, even if we've organized them. So know if that's happening to you, it's okay. But generally, when we chase down the clutter, we end up at the storage spaces because it is the space where we're like, I don't know what goes in here. So it's okay to save your storage spaces for last because what that will do is it will show you what you really need to have in that space. Because the truth is a lot of things that we hold on to for some day or for some potential moment, we never need again. We never use. And so it is taking up physical space, mental space, financial space, right? Because you might have to rent a storage unit because you can't fit something into your home because of the excess clutter. And so really taking the time to kind of chase that clutter down and then at your storage areas, say to yourself, okay, great. What are the 3 to 5 things that I'm going to store in here? And yes, maybe you can have a couple more, but we don't want to be storing like 10, 20 categories in here. So I'll give you an example. So in my storage space, I have memorabilia, I have art supplies, I have technology, I have office supplies. And I have out of season outdoor items. So I live somewhere where it snows and certain items cannot stay outside year round. So I also store that there. So those are my 5 main categories that exist in my storage spaces. Yours might be different. I'm a renter. If you're a homeowner, you might have to have building materials there too. There's just different things that we need to store based on our own lifestyles. You might be more of an adventurer, so you might have kayaks or tents or camping things. But what's important is when you are really addressing these spaces, these storage areas, you want to really define very clearly what your categories are. Because keeping a hold of things for some day just leaves you feeling weighed down and overwhelmed and unable to access the things that you actually would use. If you do like to go camping, but you're saving a ton of scrapbooking items that you are probably never going to use, those scrapbooking items might be blocking you from having easy access to your camping items. And so really weighing that out and saying, okay, great, based on my life and who I am today and who I'm continuing to grow into tomorrow, what are the items that I want to stay in my life? Now, this may mean that certain chapters that have already passed that you're like, I'm not going to scrapbook. I don't want to do that. Whatever that category is for you, you might need to take the time to grieve. And a lot of times in the organizing process, we don't make time to feel our big feelings. And this might be something that you need to do. You might say, I'm disappointed because I thought I was going to do more scrapbooking and I never did. And my kids are now grown and I'm beating myself up because I didn't do the things I thought I was going to do. I don't want you keeping things in your home that make you feel bad about yourself. You did the best you could. It is okay to grieve that, to tell a friend the story, to journal about it, to talk to your therapist about it, and then let those items go. Make space for the life that you are creating. Make space for the life you're living today and the life that you want to continue living tomorrow. And these are the items that you want to keep in your storage spaces. Please release anything that does not suit the life that you are living now. You deserve to have a life of freedom, of joy, of ease, and your storage spaces can be incredible helpers in making that come true. If you feel like sharing, write in the comments what the items are that you want to keep in your storage space that are the things that you want to give your time and attention to now. I'm so curious to get to know who you are and what it is that you're creating in your life and home. Please subscribe to join us on this beautiful clutter clearing journey. I appreciate your presence and being here. Have a lovely day.